everyone, and welcome to the Platformers live stream. And today we are going to talk about golden path through the development lifecycle and how to do it right. And for that, we got Matar Peles, solution engineer from Port, that's going to teach us about golden path, how to pave them, and how to use them in our portal. Hey, Matar.
Hey, Guy, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Excited, very excited to be here. Really like your platform engineering community and like staying on track. Yeah, so I got some cool stuff to show today and talk about. Excited.
It's amazing. I know that you're going to show amazing stuff, but the people in the audience actually don't know. Um, let's kick it off.
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's go. So, hi guys, nice to meet you all. My name is Matar Peles, solution engineer in Port. Port is an internal developer portal tool where you can build internal developer portal and provide this portal to your developers. Let's get going and talk about the agenda for today's session. I'll start by talking a bit about myself and my resume, what I did in my background, and how I got into the platform engineering space. Then we'll talk about and define what are golden paths. What do we mean usually when we talk about this? Because every platform define it a bit differently. And then we talk about the concept of life cycles and golden paths. Usually we see golden paths mainly for the concept of self-service and automations, but I want to talk a bit about how they can also be provided and managed in a much broader way. So we'll talk about that a little, and then we'll get technical, and I'll show you some cool stuff you can do with internal developer portals and how you can manage these golden paths through the portal. We'll finish off by just talking about how you can start and build this great stuff in your place and some concepts you need to take to note when you get started. During the session, feel free, to leave us some comments and ask questions. We'll stop by every few minutes to check out your questions, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Let's get started.
Yeah.
Is
So
that cool,
one
guy?
thing about questions, Matar, before you start. So if you want to ask questions, you can always post them on the comments. If it's YouTube, on the YouTube comments, LinkedIn on the comments, Twitter, whatever you like, and we are able to see and post them. So feel free to ask questions. By the way, even if you're watching a recording, feel free to ask questions also, and we will answer them on the chat.
That's awesome. Let's get started. So first of all, I'm a solution engineer in Port today. I started, and my background is in being a software engineer completely. I was a software engineer, and I was managing a developer course for young engineers. Then I was also a DevOps team lead. That's where I got really to the DevOps and now platform engineering space. Then I started working at Port after I saw how developers and DevOps communicate, and I really understood this relationship. So I really got excited about the platform engineering space and the internal developer portals in particular. And I saw how powerful these tools can be. So I started talking with customers as a software engineer. I started hopping on calls. I started talking with them. That's what got me to the go-to-market team. And now I'm practically helping people build great portals, hearing about their pains, their problems as a solution engineer in Port. I'll try to share with you some of the examples and some of the pains I'm experiencing during my work in Port. Hopefully to maybe share some knowledge and see also how the audience here is facing these problems and trying to solve them in their case. And by the way, in my free time, I didn't mention that I love basketball. I'm a huge NBA fan. I also love weightlifting, and I'm a big fan of iced Americanos. No matter what is the season, I drink iced coffee, and people laugh at me about it, but I just see it as a different product. So if you ever need a good recipe for an iced Americano, let me know. I'm here for you. So that's about it. Let's start by talking about golden paths. So this is the plain definition. Golden paths are a set of well-defined practices and workflows that guides developers through ways to develop, deploy, and manage software. We got to golden paths like from starting with the relationship of DevOps and platform engineers with developers. Developers want to run fast. If I would, like when I was a developer, all I wanted to do was to release as many features as possible and make sure that, I do my job and my capacity is at maximum. On the other hand, we have the DevOps team, the platform team. And I also was in that side in some of my experience where I saw that we were very, very scared and wanted to make sure that all of the developers' work is staying in standards, that they are not making a lot of mess, and that because sometimes we felt like developers don't have the entire knowledge for managing infrastructure and the tools, all the tools we provide, like we didn't feel like they have all the knowledge. So the real gap was that developers wanted to run it fast, but we were pretty much limiting them. And this gap got me to the concept of golden path, which is like a sweet spot between giving completely a complete freedom for developers, or making them giving you like asking for tickets or doing some manual work for them, and have all the control for the DevOps team. So the sweet spot is what I'm trying to talk about here today, which are the golden paths, which is like a way for developers to do things by themselves, but not really, because me as a platform engineer will provide them a golden path to do their work in a standardized way based on the standards of my organization. Practically, it means that I will give them probably an automation or maybe a self-service click to do whatever they want and to help them code as fast as possible for my to keep also the standards of my organizations. So that's about it. Yeah.
So I have a question, like, what the value are going to get? Is it like more velocity? Is it more available application? Like, what is the value developer should get if they're using the golden path?
So it comes in, it's a great question. It comes in, like, I see different answers to this one. First of all, we have the concept of, I guess, cognitive load, where you see the developers need to know a lot of different tools in their development lifecycle. And it doesn't feel like the tools are becoming less. Like, it feels like there's one more tool every month in every company. So this cognitive load is really hard for developers to keep up, to be good at coding and also be good at platform engineering. Even if you have some developers that are really good at Terraform or understand the infrastructure because they have some background, they can't keep up if they're still full stack developers. And also, yeah, I guess the velocity, like, look at it practically. If a developer has to wait, I don't know, 3 days for a Kubernetes cluster to be deployed or for a database cluster to be provided for him, these are 3 days of work that this developer is waiting, right? Now, if this developer can do that thing in a click of a button within, I don't know, 5 minutes, let's say, or 10 minutes at worst case, like by providing him a self-service, and this service will do the same exact work that what this DevOps or platform engineering team did for him manually. So it can be really an easy ROI. I mean, you can see the difference really, really fast. But to do that, you must do some sort of a mindset shift. You must give them help them be independent. You must help them to really have the mindset of a product manager, to try to think about developer experience and to try to step into and see through the eyes of the developers. And here I talk a lot about abstraction and helping them understand, to keep things simple. And portals, by the way, is a great way to do it, to create a terminology for developers that is very simple. Maybe behind the scenes, it will create the clusters, deploy some Kubernetes workflows, I don't know, do some complex stuff. But for developers, it will seem easy. They just click on buttons. They fill some inputs that are very, very simple for them to fill. So yeah, I guess velocity, cognitive load, if I go back to my question, does it make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's 1% makes sense. And also something that is very important is that you want to have good relationship with the platform and the DevOps team. And if you're using the tool they provide, you would be on the best side of how they see and how they approach you. So that's not very practical one, but actually make you to run things faster.
Yeah, and I really think if you start thinking in a DevX, in a DevX way, you start thinking how to improve developers' life, they will like you because you're helping them work instead of providing as many tools as possible. Not necessarily helpful for them, but it's a really change of mindset. Yeah, it's something we really see shifting in the minds of a lot of platform engineers today. So when we talk about golden paths, in general, when someone talks about it with me, the first things I'm thinking about is give me an automation to create something, right? So for example, I want to, I don't know, like we said, create a new Kubernetes cluster. So we want to do it in standards, for example, of security and networking, and also to make sure all the versions are aligned with our standards in the organization. So usually what we see is that platform engineers provide some sort of automation or self-service for creating this resource. So this is really the first step in creating this golden path in your organization. You start by creating, like providing an automation for creating a new resource. The definition here is pretty clear: provide developers with a standardized automation to manage their application, cloud resources, and any organizational asset. So like we said, we want to give them the provisioning experience, like to get started in the best way for us to stay in standards. Usually people stay here when we talk about golden path. Now here I want to break some conceptions. Golden paths are really golden paths when you keep developers in the path. And that is the hard problem, in my opinion. Like you can give them provisioning and you can give them a lot of freedom and standards, but the real effort is to also help them stay on track and to help the standards be enforced and to be aligned in your organization over time. And when you get bigger and when you have a lot of resources, it can become an issue. It can become something that is not that easy. So the next point here for the Golden Path Lifecycle talks about being able to measure the standards of your existing resources. So we started first by, creating a standard way to create new resources. Second part is, okay, new resources are created well, but what about old resources? What about maybe new resources that were created okay, but I don't know, someone with the admin permissions change the version, change the security. I know it's not supposed to happen, but it always happens, right? So we need to be able to track that. So we can, some companies do like something quarterly or monthly when they go over all the resources and check the standards, which is a bit manual, but it works. I guess it works as long as you are on it. And the best way, in my opinion, is to do it also automatically, like to have some sort of a tool to help you measure these standards. And we see a lot of tools that are starting to rise in that scope. Portals in general, like I think that any IDP today provide this ability. It can be called sound checks or scorecards, and we will demonstrate today also scorecards in general, in specific, sorry. So we will show how you can measure, like by the time as the time goes, your existing resources. So this is the second part. Now, okay, we are able to measure, we are able to create new resources, but what happens if some resource we measure and we catch a resource that is bad? I mean, the version of the database is not good. We caught something that is not supposed to happen. I don't know, maybe the number of Kubernetes workloads is not, like the replicas count is not high enough, and we're not highly available. So we do good measurements, we create new resources as well, but what about fixing? So here self-service comes back again. We want to provide developers with a way to fix the bad resources and bring them back to the golden path. So it's like being, I know it sounds like being a bad cop to, chase your developers and make sure they are aligned. But yeah, it's really supposed to be easy for developers. And if you do it nicely and like help them understand it during their routines, this process can be, I think, pretty straightforward for them, as long as you're not making it too hard for them. And I'll try to show a pretty convenient way today of how you can, do this lifecycle in an IDP in your organization. And yeah, we need over time to see if it works like on a lot of standards and on a lot of companies, but we see it already working in port, so it's pretty exciting. And I think we have a question. Let's take a look.
Yeah, so we have a question. And the question is, like, what metrics or KPIs would you measure?
That's a great question. And it's actually leading me to my next slide, where I'm going to just show one example of this lifecycle on an actual resource. So this is an example. We're going to focus on this demo on two metrics, which is versioning and also high availability. So we're going to show it also in our demo. They're pretty common, I guess. Every quarter or every, 1 year, half a year, we see the process and the initiative of updating your databases coming to life again. and it's pretty repetitive, which make this life cycle a real cycle, right? You need to keep doing that every time. So this is just one example. I'm going to show also where you can find information about more metrics that we import see from customers, so no worries about that. Let's take a look on one of these example of a life cycle that I wanted to share. Talking about RDS clusters, talking about databases, AWS RDS cluster, relation and database, and its management. So let's break it down just like the example we show in the last slide. First part is provisioning. And this one, I think, if you already started working on platform engineering in your organization, most of the companies already have an automation for creating a new RDS cluster or a new cloud resource in general. Usually it's done by connecting to your Terraform environment with GitOps, updating some sort of a Git repo, and applying it after a pull request. This is the most common process I see from different companies. But yeah, in general, we provide our developers with a way to click on a button and get their own RDS cluster. And this RDS cluster is aligned with the standards so far: security, production readiness, availability, and version from day one. And this is our goal. Second part is being able to measure all my clusters on the fly. So I need to be able to ask at any point of time whether I have some cluster that are coming to end of life, and also which clusters are not highly available. Maybe we have some database that the replica count got to, like, instead of 3 to 1, and we're not highly available. It makes us like a single point of failure for the architecture. Same goes for production readiness. If we want to maybe check some metrics from our infrastructure tools, so we need to be able to measure the clusters on the fly. Yeah, Guy, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, like I feel like something that you touched upon and is really important to understand is how day 1, 2, and day 5 actually taking in place on those golden paths. So sometimes when we tend to think about golden path and templating, we always think about day 0. How do I create? And it's only the first bullet. And when you design a platform to last long, you need to identify how you ease the day 2 and 5 for your end users. And that's really important to understand. And I think that we do not emphasize enough the end of the life cycle or after the beginning of the life cycle.
Absolutely. And actually it being a cycle and not like one thing you do once and that's it. That's a really important concept. And this is why I think I've seen lately a lot of product managers of a platform team. Like for platform engineering team, we see a lot of product managers and DevX leaders because people understand that the product mindset is really fitting in this space. And you need to keep the feedback loop with the developers really tight and also with your platform engineering team. So you need to have like someone in the middle to manage this relationship, right? And it's really about feedback loop. So when you build your platforms, that's a really important point. You have to make sure that you can reconfigure and continue building. So you need to have a pattern that allows you to without too much effort, keep building the platform and providing your developers with more tools.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Next point is fixing. So we have some bad clusters. Postgres version is coming to end of life, and you have this one team that never will upgrade until the last minute, and you have to talk with them to upgrade the cluster. So here comes the last point for providing developers with a self-service for upgrading or maybe scaling up, scaling out, maybe support, like add a new region for a database. So really helping your developers understand what are the standards and helping them align with the standards through these life cycles. So that was I talked a lot about the concepts. I'm really excited to show it in port. So I want to show like real stuff in the product itself. I'll try to show it to you. First of all, I know a lot of people are not too familiar with port, so I'll try to explain for 2-3 minutes about the product itself and how it works and how it is built. If you worked with tools like Backstage or other tools, other portals, you might find some common concepts. I'll try to show you how the portal works in general for a few minutes, and then I'll go to the demo. And we're really going to show these 3 steps in a portal, how a developer would experience these steps from creating a new cluster, measurement of existing clusters, and also fixing clusters that we want to make sure that are, in our case, we're going to fix up like versions of databases using our self-service capabilities.
One question I
Guys,
have before we are jumping to the demo, and I think it's going to be a really exciting demo. So, how do you think that people will understand? Okay, this problem requires the golden path solution or the solution we are going to see at the demo. Like, what should be the red flags that when you identify those, this is the solution that you're going to need to put in place?
so I think if you're starting to, like, if your DevOps team or platform team starts to feel like a bottleneck, and you can really feel frustration in when you see DevOps team working, you can feel it in the air. Or if you like, usually when you become bigger, you start ticketing piling up in your backlog. You see tickets, like piling up in your backlog, and you see, and you start feeling like the process is not good enough for the size you are at, or maybe something needs to be changed. This is the place where you need to think about automating stuff and maybe moving to a better approach of creating these golden paths. So I also have a slide in the end of how to get started and what to think about when you start moving to these golden paths. So I'll be able to share more information about that after the demo. Sounds good. Is that okay, guy? Can I start?
Amazing. No, that sounds amazing. I'm really looking
Yeah,
forward for the demo.
cool. So port in a 2 minute, I guess, speech or something like that. So when we talk about doing this golden path with a portal, these are the pillars of port in general. We have 4 main pillars. We have the software catalog, where we can create like an inventory for all the assets in your organization. Services, like when we talk about service catalog, cloud resources, Jira board, and basically we want to have in the portal everything that is relevant for the developer's routine. We want developers to feel at home when they are in the portal, so the catalog is there for them to provide all the information they need. Second, I'll move to self-service, which is pretty straightforward. We want to have some sort of a UI for developers to fill up a form and to shoot an automation behind the scenes that is doing something for developers in the standards of the platform engineering team. For example, create a new RDS cluster. So we want to provide this self-service experience for developers in this portal on top of the data in the catalog. Now, these two are I guess, the 2 biggest pillars when we talk about a portal. But then we come to some more cool and advanced pillar, and that are also relevant. Like one of them is super relevant for our golden path. When we talk about scorecard, so we have existing resources and we have all the data in the catalog. We can take advantage of it. What do I mean by that? We can start create rules to measure the quality of my assets. So in the portal, you can define what are the standards of your organization and what you want to verify against every resource. And this is what we call a scorecard. Scorecard is like a metric that you can create on top of the data in the portal in the context of your organization to start asking questions, like the questions we saw earlier, whether my DB is coming to end of life or whether we are highly available. So you really can curate it to your standards. And last, we have the 4th pillar, which is workflow automation, which means that you can just automate stuff. If something updates in the catalog, you want to send a Slack message to trigger a PagerDuty incident. We see that in a lot of SaaS tools today, so it's really common, and developers really like to connect everything to their environment, and this is a really nice part to show. And we provide, a very granular RBAC layer on top of that, which is really nice and important for most of the companies. So that's about the general concept of port and how it's built. Now, what I'm going to show in the demo is how we can use these building blocks to create this golden path experience we just described. With that, I'm just going to put my hat of a developer, I guess, and show how would like a day in my life would look like in the portal. So I'm going to stop sharing the slide, and now I'm going to stop sharing port.
Amazing. By the way, are we going to see all the all the four pillars in the demo?
So that's a great question. We're going to see the three of them. We're going to see software catalog, self-service, and scorecards. Workflow automation is something that is less relevant for this example. So we're going to focus on the first three we saw.
Amazing. So
So
if you want to see the fourth one, I guess Matar they can ping you and ask for a demo
yeah,
for the fourth one.
yeah, I'm really keen to meet more people in the space, by the way. So connecting on LinkedIn or Twitter is like would be amazing for me. Like anyone who wants to talk about this conversation in general and these concepts. Cool. Let me share the screen. It's a new tool for me, so it will take me
Yeah, just add
a
it, just
second.
share it, and I will add it on
I
the viewing
think
room.
we're good now. Yeah, I'm sharing. All right, cool.
Sorry.
So welcome to Port. This is Port. We're starting by the software catalog. And here you can see the first landing page for me as a developer to see is the service catalog. I can see here all of my applications in one place with the details that me as a developer, for me, are relevant as a developer, like the name, the owning team, the URL to the Git repo, and so on. I can also see some information which is more relevant for my daily routines, like information coming from AWS, like the RDS clusters, like based on the different platforms that we support today. We can also see lambdas that are running, S3 buckets, and so on. And also some more cool information like the Jira board of my team, uh, like filtered for my routines. And basically the idea here is to visualize everything that is relevant for my daily routines. So we can integrate here with different tools and data is being brought live. But that's not what we came to see. So let's see how we can come here to the RDS clusters view. I can see here different clusters and I'm a developer. I'm working on a new microservice. And for me, all I need, I have everything in mind. I know how to write the best code. I know how to do it in the best way with my, I know I have already the function in mind and how I want to implement it, but I must have a database. And I don't want to open a ticket to my platform team and wait 3 days because I want to get working. So all I need to do is to use the self-service capabilities my platform team provided for me. Now let's look at one example. I can just click on the plus button over here, and then I can create a new RDS cluster. So here comes the cool part of abstraction. Here I need to provide, as a developer, inputs that are relevant for the creation of the new RDS cluster. These inputs are pretty simple for me as a developer. I don't need to do anything to know anything specific about this AWS resource or about the infrastructure behind the scenes. All I need to provide is the relevant context for this automation that is going to be run. So the platform engineering team really needs to ask here the developer, what do you want to run? So these are like dynamic parameters, and then we just run it over here. Let's create a new cluster. I call it Matar Cool Database. Let's create it by type of Postgres, and let's choose the latest version. I can also choose like what region it should be deployed on. Usually it will be relevant to the microservice I want to connect it with. So here I can load my regions dynamically, and I click on execute.
So basically, those questions are what essentially we need to answer in order to use the golden path that the
Yeah,
platform engineer and the DevOps created for us, right?
yeah. We want to make sure developers don't have a lot of room for mistakes, right? We want to give them as simple as possible. Just select whatever you need and make sure it is connecting behind the scene to our platform. And this is the idea here of abstraction. We don't want to ask for, the too much of, CPU or RAM metrics or maybe versions that are more complex. For me as a developer, most of the time, I just want to provision my database and get working. And behind the scenes, maybe some data operations will be relevant to improve my experience, like scaling up, scaling down, and get me going a bit easier. So while we were talking, the action was running. I can see that also for me as a developer, there are some logs reflecting what is happening behind the scenes in this action run. So I can see my new RDS cluster was being created, and then lucky for me, it was created successfully. Behind the scenes, what we did, we connected to a GitHub action that updated the Terraform file and provisioned, ran a Terraform apply and provisioned this cluster for me. So perfect for me, for the platform team in standards, perfect for me as a developer, it ran, I don't know, 1 minute. And then I don't even need to have permission to AWS console. I can go there if I want to, but I can also stay here and see all the information I need in the catalog. So I can click on the new created resource for me. And here I have all the information I need, like the ARN, also the details I ask for, like the engine, and the link to my AWS resource. Now, this was the first part of Golden Path, like creating everything in standards as a developer. And this is how it worked. My next step is to show you how I can measure every one of my resources on like ongoing as time goes. So I want to show you the concept of scorecards after I created my new resource. Before that, let's see my new cool resource added here in the software catalog as one of the resources. It is hiding here because it's cool. And then we can see the link and the version and all the things I asked for just, as one of the resources to play with. So the portal is like a source of truth for your environment in one place. Now, I have everything I need. I created my cluster and I can get to coding. Let's say that, I don't know, a few months have passed and I want to make sure that this cluster is still in line with my standards in the organization. I know it sounds like nothing should go wrong, but every time something goes wrong, this is my experience from this place. Whenever you expect things to stay in line, they never stay in line. So you must make sure you have a way to measure the quality of your resources as time goes. So let's see how it works. In Port, we have this concept of scorecard. So let's go in my new database to the scorecards tab, and we can see that I defined two scopes to measure. One of them is production readiness, and one of them is version. In Port in general, technically we have 3 tiers: bronze, silver, and gold. Gold is like, a perfect database. Everyone should look up to it. And then we have bronze and silver. And if you don't have any of it, you are called basic. So it's like an insult if you are basic. And then we can see that, for example, for version, if we talked about KPIs and metrics, what I measure here is basically 3 different versions. Like, first of all, the most basic one is for Postgres to be above 9.5, then above 10, and then up to date, which is 16. So we're just making sure that we are up to date. So that's great. I mean, I created my new cluster, and you can see that this new cluster is up to date, which makes it gold tier. So that means my automation is also up to date, and the new clusters that are being provisioned are up to date. Now let's look what I measure in scopes of production readiness. So we can see here that we have whether the database is ran on multi-availability zones, whether we have deletion protection configured, and in gold we have whether we have backups running and performance insights configured by AWS. So this is just an example of standards that I chose to measure as KPIs. The idea of the portal is that these are very customizable, which means that you can create for each resource the standards that you want to measure. How they are calculated? It's very simple. It just asks the question on top of this database. So in this case, we just check. We have the version and the version field for every database. So we can see here, like Port can automatically check whether this version is in a certain scope, and then calculate the scorecards on top of it. So this is how we can manage and measure these resources.
I think something that is very important in here is to emphasize the fact that it's not only a golden path through the creation of the resource. So they have created it. We answered 4 basic questions, and now we got our resources, whatever it should be provisioned on cloud, on-prem, Kubernetes cluster, whatever resources, Git repo, whatever we need, based on the automation, on the template we have created. It can be database or whatever. And I think that one thing that is more important is the fact that in any step during the path, you know where you are, and and it's like a map. Like, am I going on the wrong direction? I need to fix my path? Maybe I need to navigate somewhere else. And that's allow users to understand not only that they started within the past, that they're actually stepping all the way through this life cycle.
Absolutely. And if there is anyone who's good with design and stuff, if anyone can help me, put it into like an illustration. This is one, like I really try to illustrate this golden path and and the process of developers in one image, which is nice. So I really try to. ChatGPT was better at it also. So if someone can help me with that, it will be helpful. But yeah, the goal is to stay in path, not only to start from the path. It's like a road, right? So sometimes people go off the road, and you want to bring them back to the road without pushing them too hard, right? Because otherwise they won't go to the road. So this is my metaphor for that one. Um, cool. So this is how I see it as a developer. Now, one more thing we can do, we can just create a dashboard to like aggregate it and to see one view for all of my RDS clusters in one place for the platform team to understand what clusters are not in line with the standards. So we have the concept of scorecards dashboards, where I can just create one. Let's call it RDS. For example, let's choose we want to measure the version of databases over time. So we want RDS version tracking dashboard. Let's choose the icon of RDS to make it look nice. And we choose the asset of RDS cluster and to choose the scorecard, the scope of version. Once I click on create, Port provides you with some sort of, I guess, default dashboard for you to stay in track with these standards, like to see what clusters are not in this path. So for example, we can see here a breakdown of like what services are not gold, and we can see that we have some of them over here, like what clusters. We can see which teams need some help. So I can see that some teams are not so good with our standards and we need to maybe help them. And then we can see like all these rules I defined, and like for each tier, how many are aligned and how many are not. And then I can really, as a platform engineer, add here some more stuff, like maybe add some more metrics. I can also embed here some iframes for my, Grafana dashboards. We want to make it easy for us to see in one place whether we are in the golden path as an organization. So this one is more for the, I guess, platform engineers and CTOs or VP of engineering to see how we are standing in the scope of standards. So this was part two. If we go back to the slides, we just saw the two parts. First one was providing this provisioning for developers. Second part is how to track it over time. But it's not enough. We see that the situation is not perfect. Everything here, like if everything was here gold, I would say, okay, we're good, but it's not. So we need to fix it as well. So what we need is also a self-service for fixing my unaligned clusters. And here what I want to do is to give my developers, and here you have to be nice and really gentle, right? Developers won't want to upgrade stuff. They really want you to leave them alone and let them work. But here we need to be really nice and give it to them in the nicest way possible. So what I did, just a suggestion, it's pretty customizable in Port, but what you can do here, I just came to the homepage and I provided them with a nice landing page to understand the concept of the fixing, okay? So like, just to make sure we're aligned, I want to give my developers a self-service for upgrading a database that is not in the right version. So what we have here, I can just go to the homepage and sorry.
Just one question regarding that. So that basically allows me to understand exactly what we get in the catalog, but in terms of specific resources or specific views, and then take action based on that.
Exactly. I think one of the strongest part you can get from a portal is not like the different parts, in when the parts are connecting into one experience. So when you see stuff in the catalog, you want to react on top of the problems or maybe of the information you're consuming, and then the portal will react to the operations you're doing on the fly. So it's really not specifically about the different features. It's about the whole routine a developer needs to get to stay in track. So here we see an example of one resource, RDS. Assume that you can do the same process on every one of these resources you see on the left. In Port, we have the concept of blueprints. So it's like an asset in your organization. These assets you can manage the lifecycle of them just like we do for RDS. But that's not what I wanted to show. So I wanted to show you how you can provide developers with an ability to upgrade your clusters.
If
So
you
let's go
need,
to the.
if you need to, like, I don't know, gamble and say what are the most common resources managed by port, from your customers or prospects or whatever calls that you have, what would you say, like, top three?
I'd say that like if you're familiar with the platform in the engineering space, you know that trend, like there are a lot of trends. Like someone start doing something, and then people really like it, and then start doing them in their organization. So I think this is where we're at right now with the concept of service catalog in general. People really want to understand what microservices, applications, and products they have today in their environments. Usually, it is being brought from their Git environment, like as a source of truth. And then I would say whatever comes with this service. So some people want to see with the service the context of cloud resources and Kubernetes. Some wants to see the PagerDuty incidents and ownership, maybe. So then it really depends on what is the problem the customer comes with. But really, it starts usually with the concept of a service catalog and measuring your services. So this is like the most common one I see.
Amazing, thank you.
Yeah, so I'm just going to click on the home button. I know I waited a lot. Let me show it to you. So let's say I'm a developer. I wake up in the morning and I start working. First thing I'm seeing in the homepage of my portal is that. Notice we are in progress of aligning all of our RDS cluster to supported versions. I know UI can be better here, like in the Markdown for like I'm not a good designer. That's a disclaimer. But as I said, I want to give it to my developers as simply as possible. So now my understanding on my developers understand on the left that there's a problem. We have a process like an initiative in my organization of upgrading a new version of a database. And then this developer can see what clusters that he owns are not in line. So we can see that we have 4 over here. So that's good. I can measure, like in my landing page in one place, the first priority for me is to see, okay, I'm not in line, I need to fix some stuff. But why would I do it? It seems like a hard problem. So lucky for me, you have also self-service. So let's say I have here like core staging, or let's say database 1, which is like, I guess, the worst one, which is 8. I think 8 becoming end of life or already end of life, which is a very bad situation for us as a company when we talk about Postgres. So I want to upgrade it. An upgrade process for databases is sensitive. If it's production, you need to back up, you need to do some automation that are pretty complex. So let's see how it works. We go from left to right. So I see all the information of what is not good here, and then I want to react. So in this page, in this dashboard, I also see operations for me to perform, like upgrading my RDS cluster version. So all I need to do is just come here and choose what RDS cluster I want to perform the operation on. And once I do that, it will trigger an automation behind the scene provided by my platform team. So it's really fun for the platform team. They have one place they can provide these automations in. And then for me as a developer, updating and upgrading a cluster is not much of an effort. With that being said, this progress, as I said, is pretty sensitive. So we want to make sure someone from like my team leader or maybe some product owner approves it before the action is being ran. Maybe there's a peak in usage of my product or stuff like that. So when I click on execute, we're going to see a different status here. So I can see that the action is being ran, and now it is pending for approval. So nothing is being happened yet. So I need someone to approve it. Now, let's say that we are ready, and my team lead or my product owner is ready and approved this action. I can approve it. Once it's done, I can really track the progress of the upgrade process as a developer. So I can know what is happening with my RDS cluster in real time, like logs are being streamed, and we will see it in a minute. By the way, the mechanism is pretty similar to the creation, right? We're triggering an automation. In this case, it's also a GitHub action that is in line with our standards and our automations behind the scenes. It doesn't have to be a GitHub action. We don't want to, to keep it strict. It really should be like the best and easiest ways for you as a platform team to work with automation. Some like to work with a full-blown backend, like a Python backend, or maybe a real backend for managing automation. Some work with Ansible, or maybe some pipeline tools. And we see a lot of other tools that are really for platform management today in the space. So all of them can work. And the idea here is to do whatever you want, like have fun with your platform and automations, and then provide it to a nice UI for developers. So here we can see what happened, uh, preparing to perform the upgrade. A backup was being happening behind the scenes, and then we can see as the snapshot was initiated, everything was done, upgrade was in progress, and then the upgrade was done. And I can also see my new cluster and how it was affected. So if I go back over here and look at my database, I can see that the version is updated. So that means that now, like I think I hide it, I hidden the version like earlier, but we can see now the version is good. If we go back to the home page, this database is not here. So that's good for us. Magic happened. And more interesting, if I go to my scorecards, let's see. I think it was maybe my sequels. Yeah. I can see that my scorecard is gold. So we did it. We are in line. And this is just one database. I mean, the process is, you have to trust the process, right? It's long. You have to give your developers time to adapt. But you like to improve adoption. The idea here is to really give it as close as possible for developers and as easy as possible in their routine. So I try to give it here in the home page. I could also do it, by sending a Slack reminder, like on a schedule basis, or maybe opening a Jira ticket, to do that, and just point at the relevant self-service action. And basically, developers can run these actions also for the self-service hub. It doesn't have to be from a nice dashboard. You can just tell them, go to this shop of different actions and choose what you want to run, and upgrade your clusters. And we can see this section over here. So that's about the demonstration. If anyone has questions about the demo or in general what we just saw, now would be a perfect time. And then I want to move from the demo to talk about how you get started with this process in your organization. And I have like a trifecta of a golden rule to try to keep in mind when we start working on the platform engineering in general and how to choose the right use case to get started with. So I'll leave a few seconds for questions and now move to the slides, back to the slides.
Yeah, by the way, like we don't have questions so far. I have a few, but I prefer you to move forward and say where to start with. If people got some questions, please make sure that you comment on the video. Cool. So where should we get started? Like you showed us a lot of very interesting stuff. You showed us how we can create our own resources, how we can delegate and actually put in an interface if we are the platform team. The end users can experience that, but the main question is where should we start?
Yeah, so platform engineering is a process that takes time in general. When we talk about starting from the automations and defining how you want to build it, and then when we talk about what use case you want to address first, first of all, I want to make sure we understand that we need to talk about use cases. When we talk about use cases, it must be a real use case of a developer, a real user story. If you do something that is too high level, no one will adopt it. You must really see it through the eyes of a developer or a manager and to really see the value from day one. Because you also need to sell it in your organization. I saw you guys are now helping with the platform pitch, like a platform engineering pitch. So it's perfect. It's just that. You need to really think about how you can improve like your organization from day one, because you don't want it to seem like just a trend. You want them to really understand the value of it. And then when we talk about the 3 rules I see for what to start with in your first use case for an IDP or maybe platform engineering, and this is where I'm going to share my screen.
Yes, absolutely. But before we are sharing the screen, I will just give a notice about what Matar said. So we are starting a working group to help people to pitch for platform engineering and portal project within their companies. We want to have some deck that will make you look really, really awesome within your organization and make sure that you convince your bosses, managers, leader within the organization to kick start the project. If you want to contribute or to use it, you can join the community in platformers.community. Go to the Slack channel and just send me a DM.
It's a really great initiative. I think many people face this problem in general. It's really hard for me also to explain platform engineering for newcomers. So it's really hard. Yeah, so where should I begin? You see this like triangle over here, and in the middle, like the perfect use cases, the golden path. But we start like what I think we should focus on, and also it's a bit of like a reference to like a research done on how you should start with your IDP in general. Um, so it needs to be a combination of three. It needs to provide high value, like from day one. We need to make sure like the audience wants it. So my customers, which here is are the developers, has high demand for it. But that's not enough, because if this tool will take me, I don't know, 3 or 4 months to give a first MVP or maybe half a year, it's like going back to the waterfall methodology. Like when you start working on something and it takes so long that it's not relevant anymore, so we move to Agile. So Agile is also critical over here. So it must be, I don't want to say necessarily easy to implement, but possible in a short scope of time. So think about something that is an easy win, like a low-hanging fruit that you can collect in your first step. For example, if you already have an automation for creating a new database, start with that. Don't wait for the new automation. You know, many people start today with scaffolding, because scaffolding is a big trend and people want to get started with repositories. But most organizations don't really know what it means. Like, don't really, and if generally speaking, you don't start you don't start working on a microservice every day. Usually, you start with a lot of more, I'd say, casual routines, like deploying a microservice or day two operations on a certain resources, like scaling up, scaling down, stuff like that. So really feel free to ask yourself, what is my pen today? If I ask a developer what would be a really helper in his routines today, and what is waiting for DevOps every day, and what are the most common tickets, I'd say that maybe these are the things I would start with. Wow, that's nice. Yeah, so this is like I think we try to to give
Sorry,
an illustration of Golden Pass.
yeah, it's a surprise that I made you, but keep going. Sorry.
I also tried one. I can share with you a few I tried with ChatGPT, but it was only servers that are gold or stuff like that. So I didn't really like it. I'll try again later. But yeah, this is also what we recommend for our customers, because people really see the potential, but really find it hard to start. So really think about something that is high value, high demand, and easy to implement. And that's about it. Yeah, think about, like I said, if you already have something that you can use and working, but is done manually, start with that. And ask your developers, like really feel free to go to a developer and ask this developer what he wants and what would be a good helper for him in day one.
And
Yeah.
I have to say that a lot of times when we talk about what should be the first step, people always ask us, like, what should I pick? What should I do? And there is no like one recipe for all. So there is no golden path to how to create your first golden path. And this is what Matar, I think,
Nice.
mentioned in here, because you need to understand what are the high value, high demand, and easy to implement for you. And if you think that copying from other organization will be useful, it may be, but the fact is that you need to evaluate that on your own. And thank you for sharing that, because it's emphasized the fact that you need to evaluate. You don't need to listen to anyone saying that that is the perfect use case for you.
I didn't, in purpose, I didn't put here a use case, just the concept of thinking for you to define these use cases on your own. Yeah, that's a great point. Thanks.
And one last thing, like Udi on the back scenes, like did an amazing job, but I destroyed the surprise. So you asked for illustration for a golden path, and
I'm
this is the
excited.
illustration Udi created for us. So first of all, thank you, Udi, for your
Thank you,
imagination.
Udi.
And the creativity.
Can I
And I
get the
think
prompt?
You're welcome. It was all done by Dali.
Yeah, I like the prompt. If you can send me the prompt to send to Dali.
it's IP.
I'll,
We
uh,
do not share that.
I'll send you the billing information.
The billing. That looks
So,
great. Yeah.
so first of all, Matar, thank you very much for sharing all this information with us. Like I know Golden Path are extremely hard to evaluate, extremely hard to understand, um, where to start with, how to do that, and thank you very much for the demo. I think that the demo is amazing to basically show people what they are able to achieve and how they really can implement Golden Path, and that would be a really inspiring demo, and how you can use Port in order to do that.
Thank you so
And
much. And also thank you for having me. It's super exciting for me. I'd say to all the audience here, Port and I'm really excited talking to different people about platform engineering. I think we have a lot to learn in this space. We are building right now, but like it's still being built. So I think good people need to talk and share their ideas about this space. And this is why I really believe in this community, and it can be a really amazing part of this journey. So yeah, thank you so much. It was super fun. Yeah, and I had a lot of good time.
thank you. So first of all, if you do want to get started with Port, and if you want to meet some of people like Matar to show you what the value you can get from Port, yeah, you can go to Port's website, getport.io, and click on the login, sign up, or request for a demo. Um, and that's it, Matar. Thank you very much for being with us. That was the live stream about Golden Path through the development lifecycle. And next week, we are going to have another amazing live stream about Canoe and AWS. So stay tuned. Follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and social.
With
And
Carlos Santana and Guy, don't forget.
yeah,
Carlos Santana is coming to
credit
talk.
is due.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
How to make your platform smooth as possible.
That's going to be amazing. What we are going to
We'll also
show.
talk about MariaDB if you're into
Maria
database. MariaDB.
So what we're going to show is how you can kickstart your IDP using IDP Builder, which is just amazing. That's it. Any final thoughts, Matar, Rudy, before we are saying thank you for everyone for joining us?
Yeah, we have a club. Like, feel free to reach. We're excited, and yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for coming, Matar.
So thank you, everyone, and thank you, everyone, for watching. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.